Hello and welcome to West Wales. Sorry, sun's in my eyes, and it's another episode, edition, whatever we're calling this, of Craft and Chat. But as it's so beautiful, I thought I'd take you for a quick walk and show you where we are, plus enjoy some of the flowers that are out, because it is definitely spring. So I'm going to turn the camera around and just show you where we are. We're on one of our favourite springtime walks, just through a little patch of woodland. The birds are singing. I can hear people using strimmers and lawnmowers and all sorts of things. And gosh, everything is suddenly in flower. So nothing says spring like some lovely sunny celandine. A few tiny campion flowers. Oh, such a pretty pink. A few garden escapees. So there we have beautiful primroses. A tiny little dog violet. Oh, what a colour. And of course we have the gorse. Oh, the scent is just so heady. Sort of mixture between vanilla and coconut. Ah, wondrous. Well, hello, and I hope you can hear me okay. It's a bit echoey in here, but I've got my new microphone on, so fingers crossed it's okay. So I've just come back from the bees. The sun has sort of come round, so I think it's a bit dark in here, but I'm just going to go with it anyway. So what am I doing today? I have some yarn to put on the niddy noddy. Got a little bit of spinning to do, just the last of this sock yarn, finally. Got a work in progress and a couple of books for you. Right, I'm going to put the brake on the bobbin and turn the tension right down, but just enough so that the yarn doesn't kind of go all over the place as I'm putting it on the niddy noddy. So I hope life is treating you well. It's been a glorious day here. We were up to 20 degrees in the sun, that's 20 degrees Celsius. It's a bit breezy. The bees were busy. We have lost one hive. I was a bit worried about them. I mean, I didn't open them up in February because it was too cold, but I treated them for varroa and I checked their stores. I mean, they were okay, but I was hoping they were going to get through. They probably got a thing called isolation starvation because there was still stores in there. And what happens is the cluster that keeps the queen warm, it gets very, very tight and kind of contracts when it's cold to keep everybody warm. And then if you have a warm day, they're not quite so tight and they go out and sort of bring food from around the hive. But what can happen is if you get a sudden change in temperature, they don't have enough stores around them. I mean, they had lots of stores in the hive, but there just wasn't enough around the cluster, and then they succumbed to starvation. I think that's probably what happened. It was not a huge colony. But the other colony are going from strength to strength. The queen is laying. They were busy. They still had stores. So I put the queen excluder on. And I'm going to have to get them a new brood box because the brood box is starting to get a little bit old and really needs replacing. So a few jobs to do for the bees, but generally pretty happy really. I mean, it's never great to lose a colony, but it does happen. And we've been keeping bees for a long time, and my dad kept bees. So you know it's something that can happen. So I hope you've got a nice project ongoing. Let me know what you're working on down in the comments below. So there you go, that's off the niddy noddy now. And I'm going to do a little bit of spinning, but I thought I would share some of the things I've got on the desk. So I'll sort that out in the middle. I'll sort that out in a minute. So that can go up there. So I have my tea. Earl Grey, very weak, very milky. I drink pathetically weak tea. But that's lovely. Right, if I'm going to spin, I'm going to have to change the camera angle. So what am I going to show you? Okay, so a couple of fun books. So the Better Homes and Gardens Complete Guide to Quilting, which was a gift, which I am absolutely delighted with. My sewing has sort of come to a bit of a halt at the moment, but I am rather inspired by this because it's real kind of back to basic stuff, and that's what I need. I think I was trying to run before I could walk sort of thing. So yeah, I'm very delighted by this. And the last sort of patchwork bit of quilting that I was doing has stayed half done for weeks. But to my surprise, I ended up hand sewing it. I really thought I was going to be machine sewing it. And I think there was something to do with the fact that it's really cold in here in the winter and really dark. And so I was sitting on the sofa in the evenings, kind of watching a bit of the old Netflix and chatting to Andrew and just doing a bit of hand stitching. And I quite liked that. So I think I want to try an English, oh, what are they called? English pattern piece? Hexagons. Hexagons! I want to try one of those. So I've got lots of great instructions in this, so that is definitely something I'm going to try. So that was a really great book. And the person who sent it to me knows who they are. Thank you so much. Then the other book, and I posted this on the community tab, says The Magic of Pockets, Why Your Clothes Don't Have Pockets or Don't Have Good Pockets and How to Fix That. So it's only a small sort of little publication. How many pages have it got? So it's 127 pages, and the author, Jess Driscoll, is on YouTube, and she makes zines, which, if you're unfamiliar, they're sort of handmade pamphlets or sort of mini magazines. And I mean, I know them from fanzines back in the day, back in the 90s when I used to follow bands. All the bands had fanzines, and they're kind of handmade out of the kind of the punk era really, but they still exist. And so she is a zine maker and an author, and this is her little book all about how to add pockets to your clothes if they don't have them. And there's a little bit of history on the pockets, then how to actually add them to your clothes. So, and it's very, very simple instructions. So if you're not a sewer or sewist or whatever the modern term is, then it's really great. And I love it. It's got lots of sort of hand-drawn illustrations, just my style. So I've been enjoying that, and it's sort of inspired me to have a go at putting some pockets on stuff. So those are my books I wanted to share with you. Not anything to do with spinning really. And I always get this kind of, this dichotomy is that, you know, spinning is obviously what the channel's all about, but I do other things. We all do other things, and I want to talk about them because, you know, just, well, because I do. Anyway, so those are my books. So I thought I'd share those, and I will put the details below. I believe that this one is out of print, but there are lots of second-hand copies available, and I will link it below. And this one is in print, and it's an American book, but you can get it in the UK quite easily. Order it from your local bookshop or your library. Somebody said on my Instagram they were going to get a copy from their library, and if they liked it, then they were going to buy a copy as well. But I mean, obviously, get it from your library as well. So those are sort of what I've been enjoying this week, really, just kind of diving into those. They're work in progress. So socks, of course, because I'm always knitting socks, aren't I? And this is something I spun, ages ago. I'm pretty sure it's on the channel, and it was from World of Wool, pre-dyed, and it was Shetland and bio-nylon sock, comb top, and then also a tub of joy, I think, which is World of Wool as well. And yeah, I mean, you know, I like knitting socks. I knit them pretty slowly because I do everything pretty slowly. I've got too many things to do. No, that's not true. I want to do all the things, so I sort of chop and change between all the things. So it means that all the things take me quite a long time to achieve. Oh, right, so that's kind of what's on the needles, and I'm just going to change the camera angle so you can see the spinning. So give me a couple of mows. So the tension's going to be all wrong because I was taking yarn off. But we'll spin a bit and then check it and see what it's doing. So I've also got plans. I've always got plans. I want to do another colour video. And actually, the latest edition of Spin-Off magazine, which of course I should have bought to show, shouldn't I? But anyway, Spin-Off magazine is spring 2025, as I'm recording this, is all about colour and using colour in your spinning. And I found it a fascinating read because I am fairly obsessed with colour and just using colour in your spinning. And not creating mud, because it's so easy to blend what you think is going to be a stunning yarn. And when you spin it up, it's just sort of a muddy bleh. And I was going through my yarn stash today, trying to kind of make some semblance of order in there, because it's all getting a bit out of control. And oh gosh, yes, there's a bit of nasty mud in amongst the ugly yarn stash, which in theory was all going to be turned into a dog blanket. And I've got a bit of a knitted dog blanket, but it might actually become a woven dog blanket, seeing as I now have my loom, my little loom. But my next project that I want to put on the loom is a scarf for my sister-in-law. And I still haven't done it because, you know, stuff like starting the seeds and digging the garden and doing the bees and not doing housework, which is mainly what I do with housework. Not a big housework fan, it has to be said. As is self-evident. There's, yeah, yeah. Life's too short to worry about the housework. Oh dear. Yeah, so I have a colour scheme. I'm just having a little think about how I'm going to put it together. And I've been looking at a couple of articles, looking for some inspiration because I really want to do more of an arch yarn than I normally make. So something with a bit of texture and a bit of thick and thin. And I always sort of come across this problem is that because of course I've got a 1980s Ashford with the original flyer, the orifice actually isn't that big. So making coarse spun yarn with sort of nice big textural bits in it is not that easy because they don't really fit through the orifice. But I'm going to try and persevere. I was looking at this technique where you can actually sort of add locks as you're plying, so you can have your 2-ply and be plying away and then sort of add locks in the middle, so it's effectively a 3-ply but it's been sandwiched, your locks have been sandwiched between the 2 plies, and I thought that looked quite good. So I'm definitely going to have a little experiment with that, but I will of course record it. And yeah, so I'm always happy to have advice and suggestions, questions always welcome as well. And if there's anything that you want me to cover on the channel, just, you know, drop it in the description. No, not in the description, in the comments. Drop it in the comments and I will do my best to answer it, do a video about it. If it's something I don't do or I don't know, then I will tell you, because, you know, as I say all the time, this is my fun hobby, this is what I do to relax. And it's not, I was about to say it's not my business, but that's not quite true. Because I do get paid a little bit by YouTube. Not a huge amount, a little bit. Enough to buy some fibre, which is kind of groovy. It would be nice if it covered the cost of my website, but it doesn't. But it, you know, it'll get there, it's fine. It is, you know, it's something I've decided that I want to carry on doing and just not worry too much about how it sort of fits in with my cottage economy, which is sort of my cottage industry, if you like. And yeah, so I don't know everything by any means. You know, I know quite a lot about quite a narrow subject, but I think that's kind of true of most people. So the last time I was doing a craft and chat, I was talking about how I was kind of a bit at 6s and 7s about having bought some dyed top. and I haven't bought some kind of dyed by somebody else top unless it came as part of a lap waist bag. I haven't bought any for many years. In fact, probably the last time was during lockdown, and that's quite a while ago now. So I don't know, I have been umming and ahhing about, I want to call it my crafting manifesto. It's kind of yeah, that's the only way I can describe it, my crafting manifesto. And it's not necessarily political, well, it's not political at all, it's just about how I want to craft. Some of it's why I craft, and if you want to call it anything, I've been kind of reading about craft makers who sort of use their making as activism, craftivism, I think that, yeah, is that what they call it? Yeah, I think so. So I did share a video on the community tab just about a lady who was talking about how fibre arts has been used by groups to convey a message. Yeah, it's always very interesting. I don't know that I'm particularly want to change the world, other than just sort of being responsible for my part of it. So I did a lot of studying around permaculture in the early 2000s, went on lots of courses, really enjoyed it. When I first got into it, honestly thought I was going to do a course about organic gardening. No, not really. It's not really about organic gardening. There is organic gardening in permaculture, but it is very much a design system as to how to design your life to be more sustainable, I think, is probably the simplest way of putting it. And I mean, people do focus on food production because food production can be quite damaging on the environment. And so my activism goes as far as I want to try and be responsible for my part of the planet. You know, I've long since given up trying to convince anybody to do anything different from what they're doing. You know, they kind of, what's the saying? You do you and I'll do me. So in the process of trying to do me, I am trying to find sustainable ways of doing things that are good for wildlife, that are part of the permaculture principles of, she says, and then can't actually remember them, what are they? Yeah. Earth care, people care, fair share. So it's, yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So I don't want to be too kind of on a soapbox and tell people what to do, because, you know, we're all adults, we can make our own minds up. But for me, I am really kind of trying to decide how best to enjoy my craft in a sustainable way. And yeah, I think it's very difficult to be completely sort of black and white about it, because it's nuanced, isn't it? Nothing is straightforward. I bought this cone top from Kate at Hilltop Clouds. So she is a rural Welsh based business. She is a female business owner. and she does really fantastic work. So all those things are really, really great, and I like supporting them. But she uses acid dyes, which are derived from petrochemicals. So, you know, it's like kind of, well, I drive a car, so it's a little bit hypocritical to get on your high horse about, oh, I don't want to use acid dyes. So I sort of go back and forwards about it. And the conclusion I've come to is that sometimes I'm just going to buy something that's been acid dyed, because, you know, in the big scheme of things, I think there are worse things in the world. There are definitely worse things in the world. But I will always myself use plant dyes or plant-based dyes. So I think that's the conclusion I've come to. I have a whole stash full of mostly lap waste that is dyed with who knows what. But again, it's that kind of, well, it's lap waste, so it was, you know, it's a waste product that I've turned into something useful, or I will turn into something useful eventually. But I have to just stop myself from buying any more fibre until I have sorted out a lot of what I've got, because I've just got too much. And I live in quite a small space, so really, you know, I've got to be smart about these things. There's nothing wrong with giving your opinion. And we all come from craft in different places, don't we? For some people, it is just not practical to start kind of gallivanting around the countryside, dyeing your own wool. I mean, it just isn't. So, you know, no judgment. But I am, yeah, I think that's where I am with it. I mean, I do overanalyse everything. That is just, you know, a lifelong habit. Right, so I'm not being very scientific or technical about my spinning either. You see, this is another thing. I kind of, when I'm doing these sort of back to basics how-to videos, I feel like I have to tell people how to kind of do it properly in inverted commas. But I mean, really, I'm not a very proper spinner at all. I'm a very lazy spinner, very slapdash lazy spinner, just letting that massive slub go through. I don't care. I just don't care. I like a bit of texture and interest in my yarns. So I don't think I'm really destined to be a sort of spinning teacher. You know, I kind of toyed with the idea of maybe I would do some online classes, but no. I think I'm happier in the space of sort of doing what makes you happy, and mindful spinning. Oh gosh, now. I always find this really difficult to remember people's handles on the different platforms. That I can remember Shell on Instagram, but I can't remember what she is on YouTube. Anyway, so she was sort of saying about mindful spinning, and maybe that's my space in the world, is just mindful hand spinning rather than technically correct spinning. Definitely isn't technically correct spinning. It's like, oh well, it's not technically correct, but I don't care spinning. Right, so I've got my last row lag, so I'm just going to change the camera angle. So I think there's really only one thing left to say, which is I will see you in a few days' time. And until then, may your needles be swift and your yarns be soft.